lets you know how much of a part you actually did play in most of what went wrong in your life. I know mine is, I think back on it, and I blamed everybody for everything. You know, and thinking back on it, 99.9% of it was my own doing, in one way or another. You know, and it's just getting that cleared up in my mind. You know, it's made life so much simpler. I mean, the world's still a shitty place, but you know, I'm happy inside and I'm content with life the way it is. You know, I don't have to deal with all that bullshit out there. And it still happens. You know, I guess I still have to deal with it, but you know, it's a lot easier today than it was when I was drinking. You know, I'm content today, never was before. You know, and I was kind of like Michael there. You know, I drank to get away from myself. Even though I wasn't a, you know, blackout drunk or a shit-faced fall-down drunk, I just got into maintenance and stayed there for many, many years. You know, I was still in control of a lot of things. And, you know, as far as my actions and everything goes, I didn't, you know, I wasn't an idiot, but I made a lot of mistakes through it. And, you know, I blamed other people for those mistakes or other things. You know, if I got pulled over for a DUI and got arrested, I blamed the cop. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't drunk enough to be, you know, I wasn't swerving or, you know, I wasn't wrecking the vehicles. And why'd he pull me over? You know, there was a few times that I think it was a cop, but anyway, you know, I was at a maintenance point of drinking where I drank to stay at that plane. You know, they wouldn't have mattered when they pulled me over. If they give me a breathalyzer, I was going to show positive and probably way over the limit. You know, I know the last one I got was, you know, I felt fine. I didn't feel drunk. The cop said I acted fine. I admitted to be, you know, that I had been drinking. He goes, well, you seem fine, so we're not going to arrest you. But you know, my alcohol content was 1.9 or 0.19 or however you read that, and they give me an excessive DUI for it. But you know, the cop was fine. He was fine with me. You know, you don't seem that drunk. I don't know how you can, you know, how you're functioning the way you are. It's normal. You know, I felt fine. You know, and that's the way my life was for many years. But today, you know, everything's good. And it's because of all these, you know, this program and people in it. It keeps me that way. So anyway, with that, I'll open it up to somebody else if they got something they want to share or question these two with.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks,
That's great.
Over there. Thanks, Greg.
I'm Mike. I'm an alcoholic.
You're
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Liz, Michael. I got a lot, both of your stories. You know, it is a nerve-wracking thing. You know, I've seen people for, you know, I've been coming in and out for about 7 years, and 12 steps were always, what the heck is, you know, pushing it off. And, you know, I flew right through, you know, first 3 steps, whatever, all right. Then actually when you read the 4th one, you're, you know, what, I gotta get everything? And it's, you know, but it was kind of soothing, I guess. You know, I wrote it down by myself. You know, it's weird, I don't know. But once I actually looked at it, and I could actually see the shit that I did, it was different. And, you know, it's, yeah, it's just different, kind of. But, you know, I drink to deal with my own drink and drug, to deal with me. You know, it's always, there was always something, there was a hole there, and I didn't feel right. You know, it's because of the shit that I packed
I'm trying to get on.
onto my soul, the shit that I carry around with me. And in order to feel better, or feel better about it, you know, you gotta straighten it back out. I don't know, but yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Liz, Michael. I appreciate it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
My name's Ashley, I'm not what.
Hey, Ash.
Hey, Ashley.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight, talking about that. I was thinking when you were both talking, I had a lot of guys, ex-boyfriends on my first step, and I also realized when I was doing it for so long, I had all these, you know, ex-boyfriends who I was so resentful at. I'm like, wow, these are all a bunch of douchebags. Like, there must be no good guy on the whole entire planet. And then when I went over on my fist up with my sponsor, she's like, do you ever think that maybe you were the issue in all these relationships? Like, no. But now, you know, almost immediately after going over that with her, I'm like, you know, maybe at least, you know, my behavior at the time was definitely, I'm sure half of them wouldn't have acted the way they did if they weren't reacting to something that I had started. And kind of made me realize and restore my faith in the male species a little bit, that there might be some, you know, good guys out there, and maybe I'm the one who needs to change some things, and I won't. It's kind of like how I think of it now, you know. You get back what you put out there, and all those relationships I just put out all this negative behavior, and that's what I got back. And maybe if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten that behavior. So now in my relationship now, it's really hard for me sometimes, and all I want to do a lot is look at all of his negative stuff, but it takes me a while. Eventually, I get it together and realize that maybe I'm the one trying to control too much, or being jealous, insecure, all those things, and I have to pull it together. It's a lot easier now that I'm sober, because before I would just drink or use to deal with it, which never really dealt with it. It was always still there. So I guess I should say I enjoyed doing it. I didn't enjoy it, especially don't like the sneaky part where they turn your fist up if you're defenseless. Thought that was a pretty dirty trick. But
Right?
then I got to do it to somebody else, so I think it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think it's really important, because how else are you gonna be able to look at it and say, what is the common thing in every single one of these resentments that I have? And it's me. It is me and my behavior and my drinking and using and all the shit that makes me bring out everything negative and ugly inside myself. And now I can really think about that before I react to something. You know, is this going to turn out the same way as all those other situations on my first step if I act this way? And then I can do things differently. So thank you guys again. You both did a fabulous job and made me think about it again. And I need it. So thanks.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
Molly, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Molly.
Hey, Molly.
Thank you both for sharing. Appreciate it. I actually just did my best stuff last weekend, and I mean, I didn't want to, like most people do, because I'd rather just pretend like most of that stuff never happened, like you were saying. It's exactly. And I mean, and it was so awkward for me to even do it, and it's really hard for me. Like, I mean, some of the things that were coming out of my mouth are just, you know, they're terrible, terrible things, whether, you know, that were done to me or that I did, and I have a really hard time, like, just expressing my emotions about those things. Sometimes it really bothers me, like, how some of that stuff can come out of my mouth, and it doesn't seem like I feel anything about it still. So that's, you know, something big that I'm working on. But once I was done with all of it, it was like such a huge weight off my shoulder, just to be able to let all of that come out of my mouth to somebody that I trust. I'm really glad that I did it, and that I, you know, there was a lot of things that I had written down and I was gonna skip over and just not read, and I'm really glad that I got everything out, because it's, you know, it's really helping me look at, there's so many common patterns throughout the whole thing that it makes it really, really beneficial. I mean, it makes it really easy to look at a lot of your character defects, so you can prevent things like that from happening in the future. So I'm really relieved. I had a massive headache all day after that, but I was really glad that I did it. And you know, a lot of it's helping me today, and I have so many things just from doing that last weekend that I can look at now, and that I recognize now, like, you know, when I'm doing something or saying something, or whatever situation I'm getting into, I'm a lot more aware of things, from everything that I said and from everything that was, you know, interpreted back to me from what was heard. So, yeah, thank you guys a lot, and that's all I got.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
I'm Michael D, and I am an alcoholic.
Hey, Michael.
Michael D.
There was stuff I was going to take to my grave. I didn't want anybody to know. And you know, hindsight's 20/20. I wish I'd put them down at the start of my list. But even as I was writing stuff down on my 4th step, I was still putting it off. Writing down these things I wanted to take to my grave. I still didn't want anybody to know. And the more I wrote, the more stuff I thought I forgot about was popping up. It's a great process. Alcoholics are attracted to other alcoholics. You know, when I was in the bar, I was attracted to people that drink, or women that drink, as I did. You know, at least we'd have that major thing in common. You know, something to keep the relationship going, alcohol. Or the other extreme, the cheap drunk. Get a couple drinks in them and they're done. That's good. You know, that's one less thing I got to worry about. You know, barely financially support my own alcoholism. You know, but women that drink as I did made enough money to drink as they did. You know, that way, if I was low, you know, if they're drinking heavily, then, you know, give me a little something, something. But and part of the format of this meeting is to share how I work the 4th step with my sponsees. The reason why I left that part out is I haven't had a whole lot of sponsees. I'm yet to have one work the 4th step with me. And, you know, I'm responsible for the action, not the outcome, and I try to leave it at that. You know, it's not my fault.
Right.
You know, I try to worry about just myself. I know that's not working the program. Help another suffering alcoholic. But, you know, I still concentrate on me. Keeping my boat afloat, or, you know, battling the alligator closest to the boat. You know, when I have a problem, I try to take care of the big problems closest to the boat. You know, and sponsees are a heartbreaking riddle. And I try to figure out, well, why won't they do this? Why won't they do that? You know, or why won't they call? I don't know what my sponsor was going through before. You know, he was calling me more than I was calling him. Just making sure you're okay. Yeah, I'm doing great. Oh, you're doing great. We're supposed to have something wrong. But it, you know, keeps me on my toes. They'll ask me questions where I don't like saying I don't know. I don't like not knowing something. You know, I'll be watching TV and something, I have to figure it out. What's the name of that actor? Oh my gosh, get on the computer, Google it.
You're one of those.
And one recently was what it's called if you got the heart on the wrong side of your body. I thought, ooh, I got to know that. Dextrocardio, or cardio. Yes, dextrocardio. Put it in my phone. Don't forget that. It's important. Jeopardy's coming. But you know, I'm really glad I got involved in the program. Right? There's a lot of good people in these rooms. I still have problems making friends today. I've got one good friend, that's it. Other than my best friend. She deals with a lot of my crap. And that's sugarcoated. Good. And I know today that if I have a problem with someone else, it's something inside myself. And you know, that's another leap for me. You know, if I got a problem with someone else, it's something inside myself. It's been a great meeting. And, I'll take another 24.
Thanks, Michael D.
Thanks, Michael D. My name's Kirk, and I'm an alcoholic. And you guys did a stellar job, you know, both of you did, you know, really appreciate having you guys here. And, you know, I think like one of the only requirements, you know, that I really look for in people is people that don't, you know, fluff stuff, you know what I mean? It's been kind of like the only requirement for people to speak this, besides working a step, obviously, but also so they won't fluff it, you know, and it was really heartfelt what you had to say, you know, Liz, and I really appreciate it, you know, because, you know, I'm over here and I'm like, you know, I really connected with you, like, you know, when you were talking about, like, all of it, you know what I mean, the feeling and emotion, and it's real raw, because it's something that's you've been working on recently, you know what I mean, but it's still there, you know what I mean, and it's, you know, it just brought back some real memories, and, you know, I like what Michael D had to talk about when you were talking about, you know, you're only supposed to do this once. Well, you know, and then he said he did it another time, you know what I mean, and that's like kind of cool about one of the things that, like, when you go share your experience, you know what I mean. You may not. A lot of times, you know, like I've sponsored a lot of people and I've worked steps with a lot of people, but you know, people like you know what I mean. You go to meetings and you carry a message, you know what I mean, and that's another way to contribute, you know what I mean, and you know, and stepping up when people ask you to share. I mean, you know, so you think like you might not directly work with people, but you know, I got a sponsee right now, and you know, next time I see somebody that's working with him as a spiritual advisor, you know what I mean, I'm gonna go up and thank him personally, because you know, I mean, this isn't like, you know, one sponsor. It's like, you know, it takes a community of people to help one, you know what I mean. There's usually pretty sick people, you know what I mean, and at least I was, and I like everybody talks about fear, fourth step. I like to look at it like freedom, fourth step, fifth step. You know what I mean? And the fourth step is the first step of that, like ultimate freedom. You know what I mean? That you really can experience because of doing the work, you know, and processing it and really taking a look. You know what I mean? Because like you were talking about, you know, I never wanted to look. I never wanted to see. You know, didn't want to know what was going on. That's why I drank. You know, I didn't want to deal. It wasn't the people. I was messed up, and how you know, the relationships, and Ashley knocked it out of the park. You know, she's talking about, I think it was Emerson who said, you know, if there's a problem and I don't have a part, then there's no solution. You know, you know, and it's so true, because if I don't have some kind of involvement, you know, and I have some serious issues. You know, one of my issues was like, you know, sexual attack. You know, is one of my issues. You know, and how the hell do you have a part in that, you know? And I remember getting so angry at my sponsor. My sponsor said that, you know, the part that I played was for 20 years, you know, I held on to it. And for 20 years, you know, I beat myself up. Every time I got the opportunity, I'd beat myself up with that fact, you know what I mean? So I did play a part in, you know, in abusive situations. Sometimes we play a part that we terrorize ourselves with those facts for a long period of time, you know. and it's all a process. But you know, we can have forgiveness, or we can utilize tools to get over it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, you know, taking a real good inventory. You know, and both of you talked a little bit about it too, and I think it's important to know that we're not just big flawed human beings. I mean, we do have some assets. I mean, you know, we're not all horrible human beings when we drink. You know, the worst of us usually comes out, but there's still usually good things in us, you know, and those things that are good within us when we get sober, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, giving power to, you know, it gives a huge amount of power. It multiplies it, and I think by tens and 20s and hundreds sometimes, those assets and those wonderful things about us. And, you know, I think in doing any kind of inventory, whether it's in a business or personal, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to look at, you know, what's working, what isn't, you know, and what can I do something about right now, you know what I mean? And that's how I know, like, you know, my family, I mean, we do like this little, you know, about once or twice a month we do family council, and, you know, we always, the questions we ask first are what's working, what's not working, and how can we remedy what's not working? Is it remediable? You know what I mean? You know, where my wife just had a new baby, you know, the house being a disaster is kind of typical, you know, because wifey's off doing stuff, and I'm putting, you know, I'm working an awful lot, and we got, you know, Junior, you know, who just loves to make lots of noise, you know, he growls constantly, you know, needs constant attention, and it, you know, and it's okay to go through things in life, you know, and I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and it's okay to go through something, but I don't have to continuously live there, you know. I don't have to stay in that stuck spot, you know. And, you know, one of my character flaws is I like, every once in a while, I like that pity party, man, you know what I mean? The poor, innocent me, there I was, you know, just minding my own business. I mean, you know, and I fall in love with that story. God, that's a good story. And I fall in love with it, you know what I mean? And, you know, for me to take an inventory on it and realize that, yeah, I got a part in this thing, and yeah, well, if I didn't get into a relationship, you know, and not just sexually or with people of the opposite sex, but sometimes it's just everyday relationships. Like, I have no business being in some relationships, and some relationships I need to have boundaries in. And if I don't take a look at the whole picture, you know, I can turn anything into whatever I want it to be, you know. And I got to be careful of that too, you know, because I do it for good and I do it for bad in my life, you know. And you know, by taking a look, and it all starts with doing that fourth step. It's taking a look at my whole self, you know, my involvement, you know, my as well as the faults and follies and character defects and the shortcomings that come along with those. But I'm not just a completely bad human being either, you know. I have a lot of great assets today, you know, and I can maximize my assets, and you know. And that's what I choose to do, you know, and sometimes I fall short, you know, and that's okay too. You know, I don't have to be perfect at stuff. You know, I love how you have to look up these things, you know, and I collect useless information. I'm like a junkie for collecting books, you know. I got more books, and I read books really fast. I read like 400 or 500 words a minute, but you know, I could sit down for a month and just all I was doing was reading books. I still wouldn't get through all the darn things that I got on my bookshelf, or you know, and I buy books crazily, you know, and I've gotten better at it. I get rid of them now. I used to hoard them. Now I get rid of books every once in a while, you know. But I take a look at myself, you know, and I think that's, I mean, for me, that's like one of the best things about this step is I can look at myself today. For so long, I was scared to death to look at myself, you know what I mean, and not just on paper, you know. I mean, in a mirror or anywhere, I was scared to look at myself, you know. And by doing inventories, you know, I've been able to actually find out, you know, how to have healthy relationships. I found out what I have to ask God for. I found out what I have to ask other people, you know what I mean. And that's what's really cool about, for me, Alcoholics Anonymous, is there's other people to lean on in here that do have self-esteem, that do have boundaries, that do have good relationships, that do have good marriages, that do have healthy eating habits, that do have good finances. I mean, there's a wide spectrum of help that's available to us in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. And some of it might vary from, you know, the drink per se, but I mean, you know, a lot of it does have a lot to do with drinking, you know, because I know when I'm, you know, I've never wanted to drink when life's going pretty good, at least for me, you know, it's like when life's going not too good, but it's going pretty good, it's pretty casual, you know, no real big bumps, but no real high highs, you know, that's not a real dangerous place for me in my alcoholism. My danger comes from, you know, when I'm financially screwed and rent's overdue by 2 months and electricity's being shut off. You know, I want to drink, and the opposite of that too. When I'm doing excellent in life, you know, and things are going really well, and I'm getting like, you know, huge windfalls every time I turn around. I'm getting a windfall of cash like arriving in my lap practically, and you know, I'm like, wow, let's celebrate, you know, and you know, and I'm lucky, you know, I'm lucky that, you know, I've been able to get a lot of spiritual tools, but I'm even more lucky to have a lot of great friends in here, you know, and thank you everybody for coming here, man, because, you know, each one of us brings a dynamic to a meeting, and I've talked about this a lot before, and, you know, sometimes just being here, you can change the dynamic of the meeting or the feeling or sensation that someone has, or you can influence what they share just by you being there, you know what I mean? And I never realized how much impact you can have on something, you know, and I don't know, man. I'm really glad, and this is another really great meeting. You guys both made it great, and everybody else you shared too, also made it great as well. You know, and I don't know if you haven't done the 4th step. You know, like Mike said, you know, give it a try. You know what I mean? And if you don't have a sponsor, find one and give it a try, man. You know, because this program works when I work, and apply. I sure don't when I don't. Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt. Well, we're down to the wire. Are there any burning desires?
Macy has one. Okay, that's the baby, not me.
Gathered that. All right, then. Please remember well, I can't even see.